Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Haros did not waste his breath. With a flip of his right hand, he took out 16 contract books and traded them to Zhou Zhou, obtaining 16 low-level deity tier divine crystals. After that, Zhou Zhou began to carefully read the content of the contract in his hand. With the various ancient inheritances in his mind, he naturally could understand a contract. He nodded slightly after reading it. The punishment for breaking the contract was that one's cultivation realm would drop by a major realm. To a god spirit like Haros, dropping a major realm was quite unacceptable. However, to Zhou Zhou, who had the blessing of the war god, he did not lack promotional energy at all. Even if he really broke the contract for some reason in the future, this would not be a harsh punishment for him. Moreover, he did not intend to breach the contract. He read it again and signed his name with chaotic origin energy after confirming that there was no problem. Just as he signed his name, the contract book emitted a faint golden light. Then, it turned into two rays of light and flew into Zhou Zhou, Haros, and Zhou Wu's palms, turning into a golden scale pattern the size of a glass ball. Then, it slowly disappeared. This meant that the contract had been established. As soon as the contract was established, the attitude between the three of them was clearly much better than before. Seeing this, Zhou Zhou also handed the low-level divine artifact that the two gods had just returned to them. Haros and Zhou Wu took it carefully and put it into their spatial treasures. After putting them all away, the two gods looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. These were a total of 6 low-level divine artifacts. He actually got them. Borrowing them 100 years was quite exciting. They did not expect the king of the blazing sun to give them unimaginable treatment. The price was only 100 years. As a god spirit that had already lived forever, 100 years was really nothing to them. If there's a chance in the future, I have to work well with this king of the blazing sun. In this way, I might be able to borrow more divine artifacts in the future. The two gods thought almost at the same time. Their gazes were extremely sinister. It was also obvious that the king of the blazing sun definitely had more or even stronger divine artifacts. However, they did not have any thoughts of coveting it, nor did they dare to. It was currently the event of the king of 10,000 kings. As god spirits of the Elven Empire, they could not attack lords like Zhou Zhou unless he took the initiative to attack them. On the other hand, the god spirits in the Ice Demon Kingdom could snatch Zhou Zhou because they already had a direct conflict with him. They did not have to worry about being punished by the Supreme Agreement. The two of you can familiarize yourselves with the divine artifact first. I won't disturb you two anymore, Zhou Zhou said. Then, he turned around and walked to his seat. Then, he took out the map and looked at it. Seeing this, Zhou Wu and Haros also began to familiarize themselves with the 6 low-level divine artifacts. Previously, they had obtained these 6 low-level divine artifacts in a hurry. They had not even had the time to study the specific abilities of these divine artifacts before using them. He could study it carefully now. After completely mastering the laws of these 6 divine artifacts, their combat strength could be further strengthened. At this moment, Zhou Wu suddenly saw Guo Xiao and Qi Xintian not far away. He looked at the two of them and thought of their terrifying combat strength just now. He could not help but click his tongue. These two people, a sword immortal from the immortal world, actually killed a low-level god spirit of the ice demon race with the myriad sword immortal formation. As for the human called Guo Xiao, he was a little strange. He could actually allow his strength to temporarily break through from epic tier advanced grade to low-level deity tier advanced grade in a way that he could not understand. Moreover, he actually looked to be in good condition. This special method of increasing his strength suddenly reminded he of some ancient legendary tier. Zhou Wu thought for a moment and came to Guo Xiao's side. Did you use some special secret technique just now to temporarily break through to the low-level deity tier advanced grade? Your secret technique should be very high level, right? I feel like you didn't receive any backlash? Zhou Wu asked casually. This is a method given to me by His Majesty. However, it can only be used a few times, so the backlash is not very big. As for the more specific details, It's not convenient to say more. Guo Qiao was stunned for a moment before saying. Zhou Zhou nodded. The guess in his heart dissipated. With this king of the blazing sun's ability, it was indeed acceptable for him to take out some methods that could increase his subordinate strength in a short period of time. He shook his head. He should be thinking too much. How could it be those legendary fellows like the Dragon Slayer? Hadn't those guys long been jointly exterminated by the earliest batch of high-level bloodline races? Zhou Zhou stopped thinking and began to study the 6 low-level divine artifacts. When Guo Qiao saw this, he did not show anything on the surface, but he was deep in thought. It seemed that this god spirit had discovered something special about him. However, he naturally would not tell him the secret that he was the Dragon Slayer. Otherwise, a large number of high-level bloodline races would definitely rush over immediately to harm His Majesty. What His Majesty needed now was time to develop. If the other party had already joined the Blazing Sun Kingdom and become a subject of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, he could tell the secret. After all, the other party would also be a Dragon Slayer. The Starry Night arrived at the capital of the Ice Demon Kingdom. After they appeared, this old capital that had experienced thousands of years of hardship immediately fell silent. Nearly 10 million Ice Demon race commoners looked at the spaceship in the sky in a daze. At this moment, the king of the Ice Demon Kingdom and all the god spirits have been killed by my Blazing Sun Kingdom. From now on, the entire Ice Demon Kingdom, including your Ice Demon King, will be taken over by my Blazing Sun Kingdom. Zhou Zhou's voice sounded majestically in the ears of every Ice Demon subject. Then, Zhou Zhou did not wait for them to react. He threw Kiro and Kiran's heads down, and they landed heavily on the street of the Ice Demon King city. All the subjects in the capital who saw this scene fell silent for a second. Then, they all panicked. In the sky, Your Majesty. Some ice demons don't seem to be convinced by us. Wu Xian looked at the ice demon subjects flying up below and could not help but laugh. These guys were quite strong. Wu Xian even saw 2 legendary tier demons. But what was the use? The difference in strength between them was too great. No matter how much he did, it was just a struggle before death. Take care of them, Zhou Zhou said calmly. Yes, Your Majesty. Wu Xian received the order and left. A moment later, all the ice demons who dared to resist were eliminated. When the rest saw this, they tactfully gave up resisting and joined the embrace of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. After Zhou Zhou sent someone to find a maid who was familiar with the terrain of the palace, he directly asked her where the golden token of the Ice Demon Kingdom was. After easily knowing the exact location, Zhou Zhou led his men to the Life Hall and found the kingdom's golden token. He used a law skill and directly broke the kingdom golden token. Then, he obtained the territory token, regional token, and the most important kingdom token inside. Zhou Zhou looked at the kingdom token in his hand. Treasure name, kingdom token, treasure grade, epic tier elementary grade. Treasure effect. With the epic tier elementary grade kingdom token, it can satisfy one of the conditions for a beginner kingdom to advance to an intermediate kingdom. It can also be used to build a new beginner kingdom, but it's no different from using the extraordinary tier advanced grade kingdom token to build a beginner kingdom. Treasure description. One of the necessary treasures for the beginner kingdom to advance to an intermediate grade kingdom. It can also be used to build a new beginner kingdom. Zhou Zhou looked at the kingdom token, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. With this epic tier beginner kingdom token, he satisfied another condition for his beginner kingdom to be upgraded to an intermediate kingdom. There are still 3 conditions if I want the Blazing Sun Kingdom to advance to an intermediate kingdom. First, my territory level needs to be upgraded to extraordinary tier elementary grade. Secondly, conquer 2 more beginner Crimson Kingdoms under the Crimson Overlord. Third, the number of regional territories under your command has reached 500. As for 10,000 extraordinary tier mist cores, conquering 2 beginner kingdoms that are not under the Crimson Overlord, possessing 10 heroes of race, and an epic tier elementary grade kingdom token, I'm already satisfied. Zhou Zhou sighed inwardly. The last 2 conditions were fine. With the power he currently had, it was only a matter of time before he achieved these 2 points. It would only be a little troublesome to advance his territory to the extraordinary tier elementary grade. His current territory was only diamond tier intermediate grade. He had to level up twice in a row. I wonder if the resources of the Ice Demon Kingdom can upgrade my territory. Thinking of this, Zhou Zhou immediately asked the Ice Demon maid who had brought him here to bring him to the place where the Ice Demon Kingdom stored treasures and precious resources. When the maid heard this, she immediately said in a panic that she did not know. She was just an ordinary maid in the palace. How could he know such a secret? Zhou Zhou did not mind. He came to the main hall of the palace, Bai Sacred Palace, and asked Bai Yun to bring all the Ice Demon ministers over. While waiting for the minister, Zhou Zhou realized that the main hall was quite large. It was a total of 30,000 to 40,000 square meters. It was not a problem for such a large palace to accommodate thousands of ministers for court meetings. Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue in wonder. However, he did not care. The ministers of the Ice Ghost race were all detained. Zhou Zhou swept his gaze and could not help but raise his eyebrows slightly. He finally knew why this place was so big. This was because Bai Yun had detained more than 1,500 Ice Demon ministers. In addition, the Ice Demon race was huge to begin with. Normal Ice Demons were 3 to 4 meters tall. This huge palace actually looked like it could accommodate so many Ice Demon ministers. Then, he glanced at it. In the end, he was surprised to discover that the abilities of these Ice Demon race were also quite strong. Most of them were epic tier Ice Demons. There were lifestyle professionals and combat professionals. There were even many legendary tier lifestyle professionals. He counted carefully. He realized that there were more than 100 legendary tier lifestyle professionals. Legendary tier skills such as legendary tier elementary grade national economic management, legendary tier elementary grade disaster control, and legendary tier advanced grade education could also be discovered in the skill list of other class below the legendary tier. There were naturally no legendary tier combat professionals. They were probably all consumed in the war with him. My good lord, is this the accumulation of the Ice Demon Kingdom for more than 4,000 years? A smile appeared on Zhou Zhou's face. This was the benefit of being a war-type lord. He did not have to spend time and effort nurturing lifestyle professionals. He could just plunder through war. It perfectly made up for the short development time as a lord of all races. Even though his territory also valued the nurturing of lifestyle professionals, everyone, I know you're more or less afraid, but don't worry. I didn't attack you since I came. It means that I don't want to kill you. As long as you're willing to join my Blazing Sun Kingdom and become subjects of my Blazing Sun Kingdom, I guarantee that after joining the Blazing Sun Kingdom, as long as you don't rebel against the Blazing Sun Kingdom, your treatment and status will be equal to the other subjects of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Zhou Zhou said with a smile. He had already tried his best to be friendly. However, the matter of Zhou Zhou getting his subordinates to kill in the sky above the capital and throwing Kirin and Kiro's heads to the ground of the capital might have traumatized these ministers. The friendlier Zhou Zhou became. Instead, the more afraid they were. Zhou Zhou was speechless. That shouldn't be the case. I'm so handsome and talk so friendly. Why are they still so afraid? Just as he was about to say something, a line of text suddenly appeared in front of Zhou Zhou. Lord Talent Notification. As the number of subjects with loyalty of 90 points and above in your territory has reached 1 million, your Diamond Tier Lord Talent, Peace and Prosperity has officially advanced to Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent, Peaceful Times. Zhou Zhou was stunned. Then, he was pleasantly surprised. Peace and Prosperity had finally advanced. He immediately looked at the Lord Talent information of the Peaceful Times. Lord Talent, Peaceful Times, Extraordinary Tier, Peaceful Times, Territory Folk Customs Type Lord Talent. Your territory is very prosperous and stable. The country's politics are clear. The subjects live and work in peace. Do your job, the people do their best, and make the best use of things. There will be no legacy, no closed doors at night, the wind and rain are smooth, and there will be no disasters. All the subjects are very satisfied with their current life and revere and love you. Your subjects will have a basic loyalty value to you. Moreover, as the time you live in the territory increases day by day, the loyalty of your subjects will gradually increase. Specific talent effect 1. Your subjects' loyalty to you is 81 points. Specific talent effect 2. Subjects with loyalty between 71 and 80 points. For every day that your subjects live in your territory, their loyalty to you will increase by 1 point. Specific talent effect 3. Subjects with loyalty between 91 and 99 points. For every 3 days they live in your territory, their loyalty will increase by 1 point. Specific talent effect 4. There will be no natural disasters in your territory. Specific talent effect 5. The subjects of your territory are simple, hardworking, healthy, and intelligent. Specific talent effect 6. There is a higher chance of giving birth to dead loyal subjects in your territory. Specific talent effect 7. When a lord advances to a god spirit and becomes a dead loyal subject of a fanatic believer, there is a 30% chance that his loyalty will further sublimate. Moreover, it will be easier for him to comprehend the power of a lord god spirit and have the qualifications to become a holy spirit. Specific talent effect 8. Your territory is famous. The entire high continent knows that your territory is the peaceful times in this chaotic world. It will greatly increase the probability of foreign life forms coming to seek refuge. Zhou Zhou was secretly shocked. The effect of this extraordinary tier peaceful times was simply 10 times stronger than peace and prosperity. Not to mention anything else, firstly, the loyalty of the territory subjects to him had increased from 71 points to 81 points. 81 loyalty points. This was already a very stable loyalty level. Unless something big happened that overturned his worldview, such as him killing the other party's family, he would basically not betray them. The upper limit of his loyalty had naturally increased from 90 points to 99 points. If it increased a little more, it would be equivalent to a dead loyal citizen. Not to mention that it had the additional bonus of a dead loyal citizen advancing to the Holy Spirit. In the end, its specific talent effects 4, 5, and 6 were also quite top grade. He looked at it for a while before closing the talent interface. Then, he looked at the more than 1,500 higher-ups of the Ice Demon race below. In the end, they still looked timid. No one stood up to say anything. Zhou Zhou's gaze turned cold. "If you don't become a subject of my blazing sun kingdom, you will die," he said coldly. The expressions of these ice demons changed. Then, they hurriedly said that they wanted to join the blazing sun kingdom. Zhou Zhou's expression was calm. A group of people who were fearless of power and virtue. He commented in his heart. Then, he asked Bai Yun to send troops to supervise them and let them announce that they had joined the blazing sun kingdom now. Bai Yun accepted the order. A moment later, these 1,500 ice ghost ministers had all joined the blazing sun kingdom and become subjects of the blazing sun kingdom. They were all looking at Zhou Zhou on the throne respectfully and fanatically. It was as if they were looking at their old king. No, even if Kirin and Kiro sat in this position again, they might not look at each other as respectfully as they look at Zhou Zhou now. Zhou Zhou casually opened the attribute panel of more than 10 ice demon ministers. He realized that their loyalty had already reached 81 points. Zhou Zhou was very satisfied. As expected of an extraordinary tier lord talent. In the future, he could be even more at ease and bold when recruiting enemy country subjects. Let me ask you, do you know where the treasures and rare resources of the Ice Demon Kingdom are hidden? At this moment, Zhou Zhou asked. Your Majesty, I know. I know that too. Your Majesty, it should be with Giza. As soon as he finished speaking, at least a dozen ice demon ministers standing at the front said. It was as if they were afraid of falling behind. You tell me. Zhou Zhou casually pointed at the most pleasing-looking ice demon race. When the other ice demon race members saw this, regret immediately appeared on their faces. Zhou Zhou could not help but click his tongue. The effect from the peaceful times was so terrifying. Your Majesty, I'm the seneschal of Giza's palace. Giza is the eldest son of the Ice Demon Kingdom's king and the candidate for the next king. Before it left, it searched the palace for many good things before leaving. The treasures and rare resources His Majesty wants should be on it. Giza's manager immediately said solicitously, Where is it now? Zhou Zhou asked. The last place Giza appeared was in its palace. I know that there's a private spatial teleportation array that only belongs to it in its palace. It should have left through that spatial teleportation array. Your Majesty, I can lead the way. The chief supervisor smiled. Your Majesty. I'll go. At this moment, Suan took the initiative to stand up and say respectfully. When it came to tracking, he was best at it as an assassin. Image him. Go ahead. Zhou Zhou nodded. When Suan heard this, he immediately left with the manager of Giza. In less than a moment, Suan walked in with an ice demon king who was wearing ice blue luxurious clothes and had already fainted. Suan casually shot out an energy and injected it into the other party's body. The prince called Giza woke up with narrowed eyes. After seeing its surroundings clearly, its already pale face immediately became even paler. Giza, the treasures and rare resources of the Ice Demon Kingdom are with you, right? Zhou Zhou said. It's not with me. I don't know where it is either. The treasures of the Ice Demon Kingdom are all in my father's hands. Giza lowered his head and said, a hint of aggro flashing across his eyes. At the same time, its finger subconsciously rubbed the black ring on its index finger. Take off its ring. At this moment, Zhou Zhou suddenly said, this guy's mental strength was not strong. Zhou Zhou could almost hear what he was thinking. Panic immediately flashed across the other party's face. He was about to take something from the black ring when he saw a blood-colored flash. An arm had already fallen to the ground accompanied by drops of ice blue blood. Suan silently put away the blood shadow sword and walked over to pick up his arm. Then, he took off the ring on it and handed it respectfully to Zhou Zhou. Giza only reacted then. It immediately wailed in pain as it rolled on the ground. On the other side, Zhou Zhou ignored the prince of the Ice Demon Kingdom. He looked at the ring in his hand and dripped his blood on it to recognize him as its master. Then, his consciousness entered it. The first thing that reflected in his consciousness was the vast space inside that was almost endless. He carefully sensed the information transmitted to him by the ring and realized that the area of this spatial ring was more than 3 million square kilometers. Tisk. 1/3 of China. Zhou Zhou was surprised. Putting aside his king's treasure box, this was the second largest storage space in his hands. Then, he looked at the ground. The first thing that reflected in his consciousness were the 3 mist cores that were as tall as Mount Tai. He quickly scanned it with his consciousness and realized that its total value was about 200,000 legendary tier mist cores. So many mist cores. Zhou Zhou was surprised. This was the foundation of the veteran intermediate kingdom. Other than the mist core, were about 300 low-level deity tier elementary grade divine crystals. Zhou Zhou looked elsewhere again upon seeing this. There were still 4 small mountains about 10 kilometers southeast of the mist cores. One of the largest small mountains was made of basic elemental gems. There were more than 20 million basic elemental gems inside. The other 3 small mountains were more than 1 million units of thunder elemental gems, more than 1.2 million units of life elemental gems, and more than 1.1 million units of death elemental gems. I can upgrade my territory when I get back. A smile appeared on Zhou Zhou's face. So many high-level elemental gems happened to resolve his current urgent need to upgrade his territory. Zhou Zhou looked elsewhere. Then, he saw a total of 1 million origin crystals. He looked into the distance. Zhou Zhou saw 4 huge inland seas. When he got closer to take a look, he realized that this was not an inland sea. This was clearly a sea of wood, fine sand, metal, and stone formed by trillions of units of basic resources. Zhou Zhou was shocked. When had he ever seen such a scene? Then, he looked elsewhere. Soon, he realized that there was also a large number of treasures stored here. Among them, there were as many as 70 to 80 million sets of equipment and skill books. They could be equipped with another 10 million troops. However, in terms of equipment, they were all made according to the size of the ice demon race. If he wanted to give them to his soldiers, he would need the blacksmiths in the territory to modify them. Half an hour later, Zhou Zhou retracted his consciousness from the spatial ring with a satisfied expression. He looked down the hall. He realized that the Ice Demon Prince had already committed suicide. Zhou Zhou did not mind and got someone to drag the corpse away. Then, he looked at the ministers of the Ice Demon Kingdom in front of him. From today onwards, the Ice Demon Kingdom has been officially destroyed. All the original areas of the Ice Demon Kingdom have been set up as the Ice Demon State, a subordinate of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. You have to hurry up and change all the non-national subjects in the Ice Demon State to Blazing Sun Kingdom subjects as soon as possible. Try your best to appease them. Tell them that as long as they are willing to become subjects of my Blazing Sun Kingdom, they can enjoy the same status and treatment as the other citizens of my Blazing Sun Kingdom. Kill anyone who doesn't obey. Zhou Zhou said calmly. With a heaven-defying lord talent like the peaceful times, he could not be bothered to feign civility with some former citizens of the enemy country. He would split them all into his own faction first. Also, gather all the lords of the original Ice Demon Kingdom. You must come to the Blazing Sun Kingdom within 3 days. This king wants to see their potential. If your potential is not bad, this king will not be stingy with the rewards. In addition, these lords will also affect the arrangements of the managers in the various regions in the Ice Demon State in the future. You must take this matter seriously. Zhou Zhou said. Yes, Your Majesty. The Ice Demon ministers said respectfully. Zhou Zhou nodded. It was only noon. Zhou Zhou did not waste any time. He used the remaining time to let Bai Yun and the others lead the soldiers and the lords of the Star Alliance to continue doing the Night Empire's faction quests. He did not follow. He only left Heros, the high-level deity tier god spirit, and Qi Xintian behind and asked them to follow him to a place. However, before that, there was something he had to do. In a vast warehouse, Zhou Zhou flipped his right hand and saw the corpses of the 4 ice demon god spirits appear in front of him. The corpse of a god spirit. Moreover, there are the corpses of mid-level god spirits among them. Which means, I can extract high-level deity tier treasures from them, Zhou Zhou muttered. As for a high-level deity tier divine artifact, there was no need to think about it. He had just taken a rough look. He realized that there were a total of 3 low-level deity tier divine artifacts among the 4 ice ghost god spirits. Even if he had the King of Loots, he could only advance it to a mid-level deity tier divine artifact. How poor. Zhou Zhou was a little disgusted. However, Zhou Zhou was not surprised when he thought about the number of divine artifacts the god spirits in this world had. Then, he did not hesitate and extracted it. The corpses of the 4 ice demon god spirits had been extracted. With the enhancement of the King of Loots and his title, he obtained a total of 160 mid-level deity tier elementary grade divine crystals, 100 high-level deity tier elementary grade divine crystals, 3 duplicate mid-level deity tier intermediate grade divine artifacts, Ice Spirit Bow, 3 duplicate mid-level deity tier elementary grade divine artifacts, Earth-splitting Frost Dragon Spear, 3 duplicate mid-level deity tier elementary grade divine artifacts, Extreme Winter Huge Sword, 18. Law Skills, 2 mid-level deity tier, Book of the God Spirit, 2 high-level deity tier Book of the God Spirit, and 80 green bronze tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. There was another treasure other than that. It was also a scroll. It looked ordinary, but as the Lord of the Shelter of the Goddess of Life, Zhou Zhou was quite sensitive to life aura. Therefore, he instantly felt the aura of the Goddess of Life on it. He looked over curiously. Treasure name, Undead God. Treasure grade, True God tier elementary grade. Treasure effect, after using it, if the user is a life form, this life form will have an inexhaustible life aura in its body for the next 24 hours. No matter what physical injuries it suffers, it can instantly recover. No existence below the Master God tier can kill this life form in these 23 hours. Treasure description. The work of the Goddess of Life, Tritis, has somehow fallen into the hands of the Ice Demon Kingdom. Zhou Zhou was shocked. Good God. A true God tier treasure. However, the effect could prevent existences below the Master God tier level from killing the living beings who used this scroll. Was this a true God tier elementary grade treasure? Zhou Zhou was a little suspicious. This should be a true God tier advanced grade treasure, right? However, He quickly understood when he saw this message. This scroll could only allow the life form's body to temporarily not die. True God-tier enemies definitely had many methods. As long as his body did not die, he could completely attack his soul, imprison it, or suppress it. In short, there were too many methods he could use. Zhou Zhou shook his head. Thinking of this true God-tier elementary grade scroll was too useless. He put it away without thinking too much. As for the remaining loots, they were not of much value. Zhou Zhou put them away. Then, Zhou Zhou picked through the God-tier loots and took out 6 non-duplicate nomological skills to learn. Then, he took out a mid-level deity-tier intermediate grade divine artifact, Ice Spirit Divine Bow, a mid-level deity-tier elementary grade divine artifact, Earth-splitting Frost Dragon Spear, and a mid-level deity-tier elementary grade, Extreme Winter Huge Sword to acknowledge him as its master. Then, Zhou Zhou looked at the 4 books of the God Spirit. Give by Yun and Wu Xian 2 books of the Book of the God Spirit. As for the other 2 mid-level deity-tier elementary grade book of the God Spirit, they will be given to the 2 soldiers who made the most contributions during the expedition against the Ice Demon Kingdom. Zhou Zhou thought. Bai Yun and Wu Xian had made many contributions during his growth. It could be said that, without them, even if Zhou Zhou could grow to his current level, he would probably delay a lot. He might even miss the rewards for the Novice Lord test and the Myriad Races Lord Battlefield. These 2 books of the Book of the God Spirit were not considered treating them badly. As for the last 2 mid-level deity-tier elementary grade book of the God Spirit, logically speaking, they should be given to Qi Xintian and Guoqiao. However, Zhou Zhou had high expectations for Qi Xintian. Zhou Zhou felt that this fierce man who could kill a low-level deity tier at the epic tier needed at least a true God-tier book of the God Spirit to be worthy of him, or let him walk his own path. There was no need for external objects like the Book of the God Spirit. This was also the method Zhou Zhou looked forward to the most. He and his subordinates would become achievement God Spirits. Guoqiao was the same. As a pure dragon slayer, Zhou Zhou knew him very well. He disdained to use external objects like the Book of the God Spirit to take shortcuts. His dream of becoming a god was probably to rely on his dragon slayer talent to step on the corpses of God Spirits to become an achievement God Spirit slot. Then, he walked out of the warehouse and found Heros and Qi Xintian. He also called Zheng Fugui and the other members of the mysterious caravan over. Finally, he called over a starry night. "Get on the spaceship." Zhou Zhou said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Qi Xintian, Zheng Fugui, and the others said respectfully. Heros only nodded. Then, everyone boarded the Starry Night. In Starry Night, in a conference room, Zhou Zhou sat in the main seat and briefly told him about the search for an illusory life race. Most people were very unfamiliar with the illusory life race. Only Heros frowned and said hesitantly, "Is it that race that's good at divination?" "Yes." Zhou Zhou nodded. "Do you know more about the illusory life race?" "I don't know anymore." Even though the illusory life race is a race with a relatively high bloodline level, their clansmen are too few. There are so few races in the endless heavens that not many know of this race. Even though the illusory life race is a race with a relatively high bloodline level, their clansmen are too few. There are so few races in the endless heavens that not many know of this race. I wasn't even born then. If not for the fact that I've read a rare gossip book left behind by a god spirit, I wouldn't even know about this race. Heros shook his head. Zhou Zhou nodded. He felt a little relieved. It seemed that Heros did not know about the Broken Battle Axe event 10,000 years ago. Well, it had been too long after all. Moreover, the range of the Broken Battle Axe's activity was not the entire High Continent, but only the northeast area of the High Continent. It was normal for Heros, a junior god spirit, not to know. Still, he still had to keep an insurance. This trip is related to the activity of the King of 10,000 Kings. In order to keep it a secret, I want to sign a contract with you. As Zhou Zhou spoke, he took out a completed contract book. Heros was speechless. He had just sold this contract to the other party. He did not expect this fellow to be the first to use it on he. He did not say anything. After taking the book of contracts, he read it carefully. Heros' expression was still normal when he looked at the contents of the contract. However, his eyebrows could not help but twitch when he saw the final punishment. Punishment for the rupture of the divine spark? Wasn't this punishment a little too heavy? However, he did not think too much about it. This was because he had no intention of leaking the secret. In his eyes, the king of the blazing sun, the strongest lord of all races, had very high potential and was worth investing in. Moreover, it was just a secret. It was nothing else. He felt that it was impossible for him to take the risk of losing this potential stock to leak the secret. Therefore, he signed his name directly after reading it. As the contract book was signed, 2 new golden scale symbols appeared in Heros and Zhou Zhou's palms before gradually disappearing. Sure, get ready to go. With a superior god like Heros by his side, Zhou Zhou felt more confident about this trip. Then, he first asked Wenya to control this starry night and used the spatial teleportation array to arrive at the Elven Empire. Then, they flew to the outskirts of the Elven Empire. Zhou Zhou took out another magic scroll. Treasure name: Directional Spatial Teleportation Scroll. Treasure grade: Mid-level God tier advanced grade. Treasure effect: Use your mental strength to activate the Directional Spatial Transfer Scroll. You can immediately transfer designated life forms and things within a 10-kilometer radius to any location within 10 billion kilometers. Treasure description: Directional Spatial Transfer Scroll. It was originally one of the treasures of a god spirit who had died. Later, Kirin accidentally found it when he was traveling the high continent, and it became his treasure. This directional spatial teleportation scroll was found by Zhou Zhou from Giza's spatial ring that contained the treasures and rare resources of the Ice Demon Kingdom. There were a total of 15 such scrolls. When Zhou Zhou saw these scrolls, he was still thinking, why did Kirin die at his hands without using these scrolls? Later on, he reacted when he saw the level of this scroll. These directional spatial transfer scrolls were mid-level deity tier advanced grade scrolls. As the strongest god spirit in the Ice Demon Kingdom, Kirin was only at the mid-level deity tier elementary grade. With his divine power, he could not use this higher-level scroll at all. His grandson Giza was the same, so he could not use these directional spatial teleportation scrolls. They could only guard the treasure mountain and not enter. In the end, they would all end up in his pocket. Zhou Zhou did not think too much about it. He injected chaotic origin energy into the direction of the myriad illusions small world according to the bloodline. This directional spatial transfer scroll emitted a faint silver light. Then, it suddenly shone brightly. The starry night that Zhou Zhou was on was suddenly enveloped in a dazzling silver light before disappearing. In the southeast of the Elven Empire, 10 billion kilometers away, along a long mountain range, the forest was lush. Huge trees towered, and monsters cried out. At this moment, a spatial rift suddenly appeared. Then, a dreamy spaceship that looked like a starry night suddenly flew out and flew more than 100 kilometers into the distance before stopping. Some epic tier and legendary tier monsters immediately roared and rushed over after discovering this uninvited guest. Hmph! A cold snort sounded. As the terrifying divine might of a high-level god erupted, these monsters who had just rushed over were immediately so frightened that their eyes were filled with fear and they could not move. They fell from the sky and landed in the mountain range. They were either dead, seriously injured, or mentally abnormal. The originally noisy mountain range suddenly fell silent. In the starry night, so boring. Heros lazily retracted his divine might and looked at Zhou Zhou. Wenya. Search a radius of 1 billion kilometers to see if there are any metal mountain ranges that look like the Golden Corpse. Zhou Zhou's expression was calm. There were 2 reasons why he was confident that he could find the myriad illusions small world. The first was Zhang Fugue and the others. Secondly, his bloodline's memories of the location of the myriad illusions small world were still relatively clear. Even though 10,000 years had passed and many places had changed, There was a high chance that some of the more obvious and difficult to change locations would not disappear or change locations. For example, he had found the metal mountain range formed by the golden corpse after it died. Searching. Search complete. As soon as when you finished speaking, a map appeared in front of Zhou Zhou. A golden metal mountain range that stretched for 50 kilometers stood on the ground. One could vaguely see the posture of a bird with huge wings. As expected, it hasn't changed. Zhou Zhou's expression could not help but tremble when he found the corresponding coordinates in his memory. A smile appeared on his face. Use this metal mountain range as the coordinates and continue to move southeast. He took out another directional spatial teleportation scroll and used it. The starry night they were on disappeared above the mountain range under the envelopment of the silver light. After the starry night disappeared, it took more than a month for new monsters to dare to set foot in this silent mountain range. More than an hour later, on the boundless dark blue sea, a pitch-black spatial rift suddenly appeared. Then, a slightly damaged starry night staggered out. Then, 3 people hurriedly flew out. They were Zhou Zhou, Qi Xiantian, and Heras. As for Zheng Fugui and the others, they had already been placed in the sky spirit ship by Zhou Zhou. How unlucky. I didn't expect to encounter a void-devouring rat. I was almost bitten by the void-devouring rat in the interlayer of space. Heras cursed. Zhou Zhou and Qi Xiantian also had lingering fears. Who would have thought that they would actually be ambushed by a low-tier deity-level spatial devouring rat during the process of spatial transfer? The key was that when they turned around and wanted to settle scores with the other party directly bit through the space and entered a deeper interlayer of space to escape. This was what made everyone the most oppressed. This was what made everyone the most oppressed. Zhou Zhou took out a smartphone that Wenya had personally made and asked, Starry Night X0013 has suffered damage to an area of 43%. Some important facilities have been damaged. It can't fly anymore and needs to undergo self-repair. Repair yourself first. Zhou Zhou sighed. Fortunately, he still had returned to the city. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. He took out the sky spirit ship and released Zheng Fugui and the others. However, as soon as it was released, Zheng Fugui said something that refreshed Zhou Zhou. Your Majesty, I can feel the existence of the closed-off mystic realm. Where? Zhou Zhou immediately asked. Northwest, about 50 million kilometers away. Zheng Fugui said, what about the scale? It's huge, but it seems to be a levelless faction. Zheng Fugui replied. Levelless factions. It meant that there were no lord factions in the closed-off mystic realm. Above the levelless factions were kingdom-level lord factions, empire-level lord factions, and divine kingdom-level lord factions. Levelless faction? Zhou Zhou pondered. He was a little puzzled. Logically speaking, a lord faction could be established in a small world. The illusory life race was a high-level bloodline race back then. Why was there not a single kingdom-level lord faction in the small world? Zhou Zhou had also thought of the possibility that it was not the Myriad Illusion's small world, but he quickly denied it. How could there be such a coincidence that 2 mysterious closed-off areas could appear in the same place? This was not a marketplace. How could they gather in this way? Moreover, this place and the nearby area were where the Myriad Illusion's small world had hidden its own race back then. His legendary tier dragon bloodline inheritance would definitely not be wrong about this. Lead the way. Unable to figure it out for a while, Zhou Zhou did not think too much about it and said directly to Zheng Fugui, Your Majesty and everyone, please follow me. Zheng Fugui nodded. Zhou Zhou immediately put away the severely damaged Starry Night and called for Heras and Qi Xiantian to follow Zheng Fugui and the other members of the mysterious caravan towards the northwest. During the flight, even though Zhou Zhou still did not understand the strangeness of the Myriad Illusion's small world, he was still very happy. He had originally thought that even if he had the clues left behind by the Time Divine Dragon after 10,000 years, it would take him at least 2 to 3 days to find the location of the Myriad Illusion's small world. Unexpectedly, Zheng Fugui found the other party's closed-off mystic realm as soon as they teleported over. It had to be said. Luck played a big part. However, it did save a lot of time. Speaking of which, this time, it was all thanks to one of the effects of the mysterious caravan's Lord Talent, unlimited rite of passage, kingdom level, that they could find the closed-off mystic realm so easily. This unlimited rite of passage could allow the mysterious caravan to enter and exit kingdom level and below factions at will to carry out business transactions. Even if it was a closed-off area that rejected life forms from the outside world, the mysterious caravan had the right to enter and carry out their business activities. It was precisely because of this that he brought Zhang Fugui and the others over. He had thought that if the myriad illusions small world of the illusory life race was a closed-off area of an empire-level regional territory, he would simply take the Lord Talent crystal fragment and upgrade the mysterious caravan to a white platinum tier Lord Talent or higher. He did not expect it to be a levelless faction. Half an hour later, Zhou Zhou and the others arrived at the sea. "Your Majesty, it's here." Zhang Fugui looked at the empty air in front of him as if he had seen something and smiled. Zhang Fugui looked at the empty air in front of him as if he had seen something and smiled. Before Zhou Zhou and the others could enter, a decaying aura came from inside. Zhou Zhou and the others looked at each other. Something's wrong. Qi Xuantian's expression was solemn. Heros did not seem to care. "Fatty, after entering this teleportation door, we should be able to go straight to that myriad illusion small world, right? There won't be any danger during the process of entering, right? For example, the door passage collapsing or something." He looked at Zhang Fugui and asked. He did not know what method this person had used to open this sealed small world, but it didn't matter. He was not interested either. He came over to help Zhou Zhou, so he went straight to the point. "Right. But I don't know if there's any danger after we go in." When Zhang Fugui heard how this fellow addressed him, he did not say anything else. He just chuckled and nodded. Then, he said with an honest, generous, and fond smile. He acted like this in front of outsiders who did not know. "Then I'll go in first and see what's happening," Heros said casually. As a high-level god, with the enhancement of a new divine artifact, even if it was only a low-tier deity-level divine artifact. However, it also gave he confidence. In addition, he also wanted to prove his value to Zhou Zhou after obtaining his divine artifact. That was why he took the initiative to take the risk. On the other side, Zhou Zhou and the others did not say anything after seeing Heros enter the passageway so readily. Instead, they waited silently in front of the door. A moment later, the door in front of Zhou Zhou and the others lit up, and then a fire elemental life form walked out. It was Heros. At that moment, he frowned and walked in front of Zhou Zhou. He asked curiously, "Are you sure this is the gathering place of the illusory life race?" "Why?" Zhou Zhou asked. "This small world has already become a dead zone. My divine sense has scanned the entire small world, but I didn't find the so-called illusory life race. Also, I realized that this small world seems to have been cursed with vitality. All the plants and animals inside have been unable to grow for a long time. There's not even much energy left in the air," Heros said. Zhou Zhou frowned. He did not say anything else. He called for everyone and took a step into the door passageway before disappearing. Myriad Illusions Small World. On a desert. When Zhou Zhou and the others stepped on this land, Zhou Zhou was in a daze. He almost thought that the scene in front of him was the blazing sun desert in the past. He looked over. In the end, he saw nothing but desert. Even with Zhou Zhou's supervision, he could still see the desert in the furthest distance. The only strange thing was that there were some scattered corpses in this desert. Zhou Zhou looked at the corpses and narrowed his eyes. It was the corpse of the illusory fate race. At this moment, Qi Xintian flew out of their team and quickly flew back. Qi Xintian, who had flown back, waved his right hand and more than 10 corpses appeared in front of them. The heads of these skeletons were especially big, and their sternum was also especially big. Their figures were relatively hunched, and they had a pair of bone wings on their backs. "These bones look a little old," Qi Xintian said. "From the looks of their corpses, they seem to have been eaten by some wild beasts." Heros took a look and said. Then, he thought of something and suddenly sneered. This place is almost lifeless. How can there be resources for wild beasts to survive? When everyone heard this, other than Zheng Fuguei and the others, their expressions changed slightly. Yes. In this barren world, where there were no resources for wild beasts to survive, who had gnawed on these bones? The answer was self-evident. At this moment, Zhou Zhou seemed to have sensed something. His eyes lit up, and he immediately flew into the distance. When everyone saw this, even though they did not know what had happened, they all followed closely behind. They saw their king land on a sand dune. Then, he flipped over the sand dune and pulled out a member of the illusory life race in a tattered white robe. This member of illusory life race was rather short. He was probably only at the green bronze tier advanced grade. His entire body was covered in wounds and was already on the verge of death. When Zhou Zhou saw this, he directly cast the chaos healing technique on the other party. Under the treatment of the chaos healing technique, which was equivalent to a law skill, this member of the illusory life race, who was only a green bronze tier advanced grade, quickly woke up. Then, he saw Zhou Zhou and the others at first glance. And then, the member of the illusory life race looked at them with a dumbfounded expression. He opened his mouth and said a bunch of words that Qi Xintian and the others did not understand. Then, his expression suddenly became excited. He grabbed Zhou Zhou's arm and said a lot of things. Even Heros, a high-tier god, could not understand what the other party was saying. Only Zhou Zhou understood. This was the language of the illusory life race. It was rather rare. Basically, only the illusory fate race would use it. However, in Zhou Zhou's bloodline inheritance, after the space-time divine dragon saw this event 10,000 years ago, he naturally mastered the language of the illusory life race. Therefore, it was equivalent to him mastering the language of the illusory life race. This member of the illusory fate race was saying, "Humans? How did you come here? Are you from the outside world? Have you already opened the path to the myriad illusions small world from the outside world? Can our illusory life race finally leave? We can finally be saved, right? Calm down. We did come from the outside world, and we did have a way in and out. But why do I have to bring you out with me?" Zhou Zhou stared into its eyes and spoke in the language of the illusory life race. "Why wouldn't you bring us out with you? You're all here. As long as you tell us the method, you can save our entire race. Isn't this a good thing for you to showcase your moral fiber?" The illusory fate race member asked in a daze. Zhou Zhou was speechless. Is this child that innocent? I want benefits, Zhou Zhou said straightforwardly. The illusory fate race member blinked. What benefits do you want? Firstly, I want all of your illusory fate clan's clansmen to submit to me. I also want to know what treasure your illusory life race obtained from the broken battle axe activity 12,000 years ago. Where is it? Thirdly, tell me, why has your world become like this? Zhou Zhou asked telepathically. The illusory fate race was stunned when they heard this. Then, he mocked himself and sent a voice transmission. It's been more than 10,000 years. I didn't expect you to still remember. Zhou Zhou looked at it silently. All right, I, Cab, can agree to all three conditions. You, an outsider, might not believe it, but to us, the illusory life race, we can agree to any condition as long as we can escape this place. What's so bad about becoming someone's subject? I'll even be a dog. I'll take you to see my people in a moment. As for the second question, the final treasure you mentioned is the Bodhi Supreme. Bodhi Supreme? Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows. Imagine. It's said to be a treasure that can solve all kinds of confusion. The user will be able to obtain the answers to all kinds of questions with the Bodhi Supreme in his hand. But it can only be used 3 times. The first time was used by the patriarch of the illusory life race, Shirluo, 10,000 years ago. At that time, Patriarch Shirluo used it because he wanted to know how to protect the inheritance of the illusory life clan while protecting the Bodhi Supreme. Later on, Patriarch Shirluo comprehended the sealing the heavens, sealing the earth, and void life concealing technique from Bodhi Supreme. He built our foundation, the myriad illusions small world, into a world that even a terrifying race like the original spirit race could not find us in. However, just as Patriarch Luo moved us all to the myriad illusions small world and completely shut off the small world, an accident happened. One of our clansmen who went out has been infected by the energy plague spread by a god spirit, at least at the true god tier level. This energy plague has no movement in the outside world. It's as if it's not infected. However, as soon as we arrived in the myriad illusion small world, this energy plague seemed to have been suddenly triggered and spread crazily throughout the entire myriad illusion small world. All the plants and animals in the myriad illusion small world, including our illusory life race, yearn to absorb energy and grow. So, all the living beings in the myriad illusion small world have gone crazy. Countless animals, plants, and illusory fate race people are crazily absorbing the energy of this world. It's as if there's an energy black hole in our bodies. No matter how much energy they absorb, it's not enough. It was fine in the beginning. Even though this was the first time our illusory life race faced such a situation, we were still working hard to find a solution. There are some small conflicts in the clan, but they were not big. However, as time passed, the energy plague remained unresolved, and things gradually changed. The energy in the myriad illusions small world was constantly decreasing. After sensing this, countless plants, animals, and our illusory life race insisted on absorbing the energy in the air at the beginning. But later on, there was not enough energy in the air. In order to satisfy the greed for energy in our hearts, our illusory life race began to hunt and collect animals and plants that had absorbed enough energy. Then, we obtained energy by consuming their animal flesh and plant roots. It was not over yet. The resources in the myriad illusions small world are limited after all. Our ancestors hunted and collected crazily. After thousands of years, they finally finished eating all the resources in the myriad illusions small world. Later, in order to avoid killing each other in the future, the wisest in the clan decided to use the Bodhi Supreme for the second time. It was supposed to be a good thing, but I didn't expect to personally create a terrifying demon. His name is Long, and he was also our clan leader at the time. His character was outstanding. No clansman can compare to him. Therefore, after a discussion, the elders of the clan decided to give him the second use of the Bodhi Supreme and let him find a way to save the clan. We don't know exactly what he was asking. All we know is, on the second day after he used the Bodhi Supreme, he suddenly betrayed the race. Then, he began to crazily hunt and devour us illusory fate race citizens. To the end, his eyes were filled with anger, confusion, and fear. He wants to eat us. All of us. Zhou Zhou more or less understood now. It turned out that an energy plague had turned the myriad illusions small world into how it was now. There was no need to think too much about it, as there was a high chance that this energy plague was caused by the factions that coveted the event's final reward. Still, he had questions to ask the other party. Didn't you set up that great technique yourselves? Can't you escape by yourselves? He asked. Back then, Patriarch Luo said that if the sealing the heavens, sealing the earth, and void life concealing technique that we established could enter and leave as we pleased, such a technique would not be able to protect our illusory life race at all. Because as long as a member of the illusory life race can leave, it's possible that our entire race will be destroyed. That's why we can't undo the sealing the heavens and sealing the earth, void life concealing technique. We can only wait for this technique to dissipate on its own. There's only one way to dissipate. When the energy in the myriad illusion small world is completely exhausted, there will naturally be no way to maintain the sealing the heavens, sealing the earth, and void life concealing technique. When the mystic technique resolves itself, we can leave. Does this mean that the energy in the small world should be running out soon? Upon hearing this, Zhou Zhou sensed the energy density of this small world and realized that there was only sporadic energy left in the air. If not for his powerful constitution, he might not even have sensed this bit of energy. This energy density was comparable to the cerulean planet during the cultivation-less age. There really isn't much left. Perhaps in about another 1,000 years, the energy in the myriad illusions small world will be completely exhausted. However, by then our race might have been annihilated. No, maybe it won't even take that long. Cab smiled wryly. Zhou Zhou nodded. So, the reason why your Long wants to eat all of you is because he's also infected with the energy plague? Zhou Zhou asked again. No. Cab quickly shook his head. The energy plague only affected the ancestors back then and their descendants within 3 generations. We, the descendants 3 generations later, don't have the energy plague on us. That Long wants to eat us only because he's hungry. Do you know? In order to allow himself to be able to eat for a longer time, he even raised us in captivity just so that we could be eaten for a longer time. Hungry? Raised in captivity? So sick? Zhou Zhou was shocked. Cab nodded vigorously. Even though it's normal to do anything in order to survive, eating people of the same race and even rearing them in captivity. Qi Xuantian's expression was cold. Such an inhumane beast deserves to be killed. Zhou Zhou said nothing. Qi Xintian was right. But he had a feeling that things were not that simple. What about you? Won't you be hungry? This place is so barren. It should be difficult to grow food or raise livestock, right? Zhou Zhou frowned and asked. Our ancestors have lived here for a long time. Through our illusionary heavenly fate bloodline talent, they deduced a cultivation method called wind and dew. This cultivation method can be used to absorb the morning wind and morning dew every day to replace food and replenish the energy in the body. However, there is a price to it. The price is that if we don't have other sources of energy, our realm level will decrease at an extremely slow speed. Cab shook his head and said calmly, when our illusory life race first moved over here, there were several high-tier deities. In our generation, the strongest among us is only a yellow gold tier advanced grade. Our ancestors' ancestral glory has long become history. Now, we can't even satisfy the needs of ordinary life forms like Zhou Zhou. Originally, he thought that the people on the cerulean planet were just teasing him. Unexpectedly, in an extraordinary tier world like the High Continent, something like drinking northwest wind really existed. Doesn't your Bodhi Supreme still have one usage? Why don't you use it to find a way to break through the world? Your race is about to be exterminated. Instead of dying here with grievances, it's better to walk out of this world and fight the enemy to the death. Zhou Zhou said. The Bodhi Supreme indeed has one more usage, but Pattaya Luo thought of this back then, so he had long made an agreement with the Bodhi Supreme. If someone in the future asks about the method to break through the realm, the Bodhi Supreme with his own intelligence will not answer this question. Zhou Zhou nodded. He was not too surprised that the Bodhi Supreme had its own intelligence. In this extraordinary tier world, the higher the level of an existence, the easier it was for it to give birth to its own intelligence and form an existence similar to a spirit. It was normal for a treasure personally rewarded by the Supreme will like the Bodhi Supreme to have its own spirit. And it's no longer in our hands. It's with Long. Back then, he snatched Bodhi Supreme away when he betrayed the illusory life race. As for whether Long had already used the Bodhi Supreme for the 3rd time after that, we don't know. Cab sighed. Long. Zhou Zhou muttered. He was a little tempted because he had many doubts in his heart. If the Bodhi Supreme was really as useful as Cab said, he was determined to obtain this treasure. As for the 3rd usage, he would know once he snatched it over. Where's Long? Zhou Zhou immediately asked. We don't know. However, he would come and rob our clansmen to feed himself every 10 years. Counting the days, we should be able to see him in 3 months. At this point, fear appeared on Cab's face again. Zhou Zhou frowned. 3 months? He did not have that much time. It would be too late by then. He thought about it, but still couldn't think of a solution. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If only he had a grudge against Long. He still had one use of the final item, Vendetta's compass. If there was a grudge, he could directly use Vendetta's name to drive the compass to find the other party's location. Unfortunately, he had no enmity with the other party. He couldn't use the final item even if he wanted to. He thought for a while, but still couldn't think of a solution. Take us to your remaining clansmen first. Sure. Cab nodded and tried to stand up. However, just as he stood up, he staggered and almost fell again. Cab's expression did not change. This seemed to be a common occurrence to him. When Zhou Zhou saw this, he immediately saw the reason. His body was too weak. It would be strange if his body wasn't weak after drinking wind and dew every day. Zhou Zhou took out a bottle of green bronze tier advanced grade restoration potion from the king's treasure box and handed it to him. Drink it first, then walk properly, he said. Cab was stunned. Then, before he could figure out what was going on, he smelled an extremely fragrant smell. That was the smell of fresh and abundant energy. Is this for me? He looked at Zhou Zhou in disbelief. It's just a bottle of green bronze tier advanced grade energy restoration potion. This is nothing. You'll know when you leave this world. Zhou Zhou waved his hand casually. When Cab heard this, he immediately took it and carefully opened the cork. Then, he carefully took a sniff at the mouth of the bottle and immediately looked intoxicated. After a few seconds, he came back to his senses. He carefully placed it by his mouth and slowly poured it in. After drinking it, everyone could clearly see that Cab's expression was much better now. Cab looked at the empty bottle in his hand and then looked at Zhou Zhou longingly. I'll let you drink your fill when you become my subject. Zhou Zhou smiled. My dear lord, please follow me. Cab perked up and immediately tried to curry favor. When Zheng Fugui and the others saw this, they couldn't help but laugh. However, they didn't have any intention of mocking him. They just found it a little interesting. Then, under Cab's lead, they rushed to the habitat of the illusory life race. Not long after they left, a mysterious man in a yellowish-brown cloak appeared where they had just been. If Cab was here, he would definitely be able to recognize that this guy was the illusory life race member he was very afraid of, Long. At this moment, he was looking in the direction where Zhou Zhou and the others had left. His expression was filled with excitement, desire, confusion, worry, fear, and killing intent. However, he did not stay for long before turning around and leaving. A moment later, in an underground space in the desert, Zhou Zhou and the others were brought here by Cab and saw his clansmen. There were about 100 illusory life race members living here. The underground space was not large enough because they naturally did not have their own houses. They only lived together on a sand bed that was similar to a large bed to rest. Perhaps it was because they wanted to conserve energy in their bodies. They rarely moved. When Zhou Zhou, Cab, and the others returned, all the illusory life race members immediately looked over in surprise. Just as they were about to ask the other party if they had found some desert crops to eat, they saw Zhou Zhou and the large group of mysterious vendors behind him. They were stunned. Then, just like Cab, they did not look afraid at all. Instead, they immediately became excited. Outsiders. Outsiders have entered our myriad illusions small world. We can finally leave this place. The 100 or so illusory life race members were extremely excited. Zhou Zhou was a little unaccustomed to this enthusiasm. No wonder Cab said that they can be ordered around like dogs. They don't seem to care about such things as long as we can get out of here, he thought to himself. Then, he looked at the gazes of the more than 100 illusory life race people and stated his conditions. After the illusory life race members learned of Zhou Zhou's conditions, they immediately patted their chests and agreed, willing to become subjects of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Zhou Zhou nodded. Just as he was about to say something, "Can you really get us out of here?" An elder, one of the illusory fate race, looked at Zhou Zhou longingly with a doubtful expression. Many other people of the illusory life race also had some doubts. Zhou Zhou wanted to say yes confidently, but after thinking about it, he decided to be cautious. I can't guarantee it either. I can only tell you that my subordinates and I came to your sealed myriad illusions small world through this method. We're confident about getting out this way ourselves. Let's give it a try. The illusory life race members nodded. Then let me give it a try. A male member of the illusory life race stood up. Zhou Zhou didn't waste any time and immediately got Zheng Fugui to bring this illusory life clansman out of the realm. With the unlimited rite of passage, Zheng Fugui left the myriad illusions small world very simply. However, Zhou Zhou's expression suddenly turned ugly. Because that member of the illusory life race was still here. Only Zheng Fugui and his carriage disappeared. Indeed, Chief Shirluo's sealing the heavens and sealing the earth, void life concealing technique, is too powerful. Ordinary methods cannot actually solve it. An illusory life race elder one sighed when he saw this scene. The other illusory life race members also felt a little regretful. They did not blame Zhou Zhou. After all, in their eyes, Zhou Zhou was just an ordinary human. It was already quite good to be able to enter their small world. They still wanted him to take them out of this world? Did they really think that the methods left behind by Shirluo were for nothing? Zhou Zhou was a little surprised at first, but he immediately asked Zheng Fugui to come back. Zheng Fugui came back in no time. What's going on? Why didn't this illusory life race member exit with you? Zhou Zhou asked. Your Majesty. There, sealing the heavens and sealing the earth, void life concealing technique, is extremely high grade. More than I can shelter, I'm afraid. Zheng Fugui said. Zhou Zhou immediately understood. It seemed like he had to upgrade the mysterious caravan's lord talent. He did not say much. He only said that he would come back tomorrow. Then, he left the myriad illusions small world with everyone and casually took down the lowest level Black Iron Tier territory near the small world for tomorrow's teleportation. Then, he directly used the Lord talent of Return to the City to return to the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Blazing Sun Kingdom, in a spacious room in the intermediate grade Lord's Paradise. Zhou Zhou was about to upgrade the mysterious caravan when he suddenly saw a few text notifications that he had not noticed before. Cerulean Planet World Channel Lord Announcement. Congratulations to the Lord of the Blazing Sun for successfully breaking through a beginner Kingdom Lord faction. Reward. Reputation rating +3. Cerulean Planet World Channel Announcement. Congratulations to the Lord of the Blazing Sun. Cerulean Planet World Channel Announcement. Congratulations to the Lord of the Blazing Sun. Lord Talent Notification. Congratulations, you have captured a kingdom and triggered the White Silver Tier Lord Talent, Embrace of the Conqueror. You have obtained the loyalty of a hero with an extraordinary tier hero fate level slot. Note, this hero is rushing to your territory. Please note the latest new subject list. The Lord of the End class hint. You have destroyed an intermediate kingdom-level lord faction and collected 50% of the power of the Law of the End. The crown of the finals grade has increased by 1 step. Current collection progress, 130%. You can upgrade the crown of the final. The Lord of the End class hint. You have destroyed a beginner kingdom-level lord faction and collected 100 points of final nirvana power progress. You can use 100 points of final nirvana power to exchange for a chance to revive after death and increase your strength greatly after revival. Current power of final nirvana, 500 points. Current number of resurrections, 4. The Lord of the End class hint. You have destroyed an intermediate kingdom-level lord faction. 10 final guard members have received your summon. You can summon them. Number of final guard members, 14, can be summoned. Can I upgrade the crown of the final now? Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows. Zhou Zhou gave it a thought, and a grayish-white crown that looked ancient and mysterious appeared on his head. There were 3 small mountains in front of him. It was the crown of the final. He took it off and looked at it. Information about the divine artifact appeared. Divine artifact name. Crown of the final. Divine artifact grade. Low-tier deity level intermediate grade. Enhanceable. Divine artifact ability 1. Power of the End. As the Lord of the End, the power of the End that can end all things surges in your body. When you attack any matter, you have a 10% chance of shattering it. When attacking any life form, you have a 1% chance of directly killing it. Divine artifact ability 2. Army of the End. Soldiers of the Lord of the End have a wisp of the aura of the End when attacking. When attacking any substance, there is a 1.5% chance of shattering it. Divine Artifact Ability 3. Obtaining the Final. You can collect the power of the Law of the Final by destroying the Lord's faction. After collecting enough power of the Law of the End, you can increase the grade of the Crown of the Final and unlock more abilities of the Crown of the Final. Current collection progress of the Power of the Final Law, 0%. Divine Artifact Description. The Lord of the End's exclusive divine artifact. It contains the power of the end of all things. The Crown of the Final has advanced from low-tier deity level elementary grade to the low-tier deity level intermediate grade. After leveling up, my probability of shattering has increased from 10% to 12%. The probability of instant death increased from 1% to 1.5%. The shattering probability of my soldiers has increased from 1% to 1.5%. Zhou Zhou nodded. He was quite satisfied. While the probability of improvement was not high, there were still the effects of the most terrifying instant death and shattering laws. Even a sporadic increase could be considered a huge increase. Moreover, this was only at low-tier deity level intermediate grade. What would happen when he advanced to the mid-tier deity level, high-tier deity level, or even true god tier? Zhou Zhou had a faint premonition. The Crown of the Final and the Lord of the End class that it represented would have astonishing growth potential in the future. In addition, after I convert all my resurrections into the power of final nirvana, my resurrections will reach an astonishing 9. Furthermore, it turns out that destroying the intermediate kingdom will allow you to obtain 10 talents with your reputation rating, 10 members of the final guard, and 50% progress of the power of the final law. Zhou Zhou nodded. A talent attracted by his reputation rating. With Zhou Zhou's current outlook, he no longer cared as much as before. He could obtain 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 times the number of high-level talents by conquering any beginner kingdom after all. However, he still needed the number of resurrections, the members of the final guard, and the progress of the law of the final power. Then, without much thought, he took out 100 yellow gold tier Lord Talent crystal fragments and fused them into a white platinum tier Lord Talent origin divine crystals. Then choose to use it. An upgrade notification appeared. As you have 2 yellow gold tier Lord Talents, Monster Ranch and Mysterious Caravan, please choose one to level up. Monster Ranches. Let's upgrade it later. Zhou Zhou looked at the 2 Lord Talents and decided after some thought. In any case, the Lord Talent crystal fragment in his hands was enough to level up. Upgrading the Monster Ranches had indeed improved him quite a bit. Let's upgrade the Mysterious Caravan first. Zhou Zhou said. Lord Talent has been chosen. Upgrading in progress. A familiar warm feeling came from between his eyebrows. A moment later, the warmth faded. A new text notification appeared. Lord Talent upgrade successful. Congratulations, your yellow gold tier Lord Talent, Mysterious Caravan, has been upgraded to white platinum tier Lord Talent, Mysterious Caravan. You have leveled up to white platinum tier Lord Talent effect. Lord Talent, Mysterious Caravan, white platinum tier. Mysterious Caravan. Your territory has a mysterious caravan blessed by the supreme will. You can send them out to buy resources needed by your territory or sell goods made by your territory subjects. Supreme Blessing, Mysterious Trading. In the eyes of your subjects, the mysterious caravan is just an ordinary caravan that helps the territory carry out transactions. In the eyes of outsiders, the mysterious caravan is a special caravan that will never be known. Outsiders will never know who it is working for or what their ultimate goal is. Supreme Blessing, Unlimited Rite of Passage. Kingdom level. The mysterious caravan can conduct business in any territory below the kingdom level. Even if it's a closed area that rejects living beings from the outside world, the mysterious caravan has the right to enter and carry out their business activities. Zhou Zhou nodded. While this upgrade only increased the authority level of the unlimited rite of passage from the kingdom level to the empire level, this should be enough to Zhou Zhou. There was nothing he could do if it wasn't enough. He no longer had enough Lord Talent crystal fragment resources to gather 1 diamond tier Lord Talent origin divine crystals. Then, he took out 10,000 green bronze tier Lord Talent crystal fragments from his Lord Talent crystal fragment and fused them into a white platinum tier Lord Talent origin divine crystals to upgrade the Monster Ranch. He looked at the information and realized that the talent information of the Monster Ranch was the same as the last upgrade. There were no changes. Looks like I have to get Mugu to come over and talk to me personally. Zhou Zhou thought. Then, he thought about it and decided to continue upgrading his Lord talent. The Lord talent he leveled up this time was none other than the White Silver Tier Lord talent, Return to the City. During this King of 10,000 Kings event, he would probably spend most of his time outside doing faction quests. At a time like this, Return to the City, which could bring people to and from the territory freely, was very important. The upgrade on Return to the City was completed. Lord talent, Return to the City, Yellow Gold tier. Return to the City. No matter where you are, you will immediately return to your territory and recover 60% of your physical state in the next 10 seconds 3 seconds after chanting the designated password. You can also specify 100,000 life forms or 100,000 units of supplies to return to your territory together. If the specified person is a life form, he will recover 30% of his physical state in the next hour. Lord Talent Notification. This talent can be activated 3 times a day. Zhou Zhou nodded. This upgrade was not bad. The chanting time for Return to the City changed from 3 seconds to 2 seconds. The living beings and resources that return to the city together also broke through from 1,000 units to 100,000 units. Moreover, the number of times it could be activated every day had increased from 2 to 3. It could be said to have improved greatly. Now, he still had 45,542 Black Iron Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 3,617 Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 279 White Silver Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 65 Yellow Gold Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 1 Diamond Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragment, 8 Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 9 Epic Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 2 Legendary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 6 Mythical Tier Unique Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. It's already late. It's not convenient to go to the Myriad Illusions small world. Let's go tomorrow. I'll upgrade my territory today. After some thought, Zhou Zhou made up his mind.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.